Everybody feels imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter. Everybody has self-doubt. You are not alone. The difference is, can you still get up in the morning and start working on your business? And kind of like you take the self-doubt and you go, yep, I see you. Up, hello there, my friend. And you kind of put it aside and say, okay, you want to sit next to me? Come sit next to me. You want to tell me how bad I am? Come on, bring it on. But I got work to do. Know that everybody feels imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And everybody has self-doubt. You are not alone. The difference is, can you still get up in the morning and start working on your business? And kind of like you take the self-doubt and you go, yep, I see you. Up, hello there, my friend. And you kind of put it aside and said, okay, you want to sit next to me? Come sit next to me. You want to tell me how bad I am? Come on, bring it on. But I got work to do.
Right.
And that's
like schedule,
like, you know,
like schedule time for it almost.
Oh my God.
My therapist actually told me that. He's like, schedule when you're dealing with something that's really hard. And if you feel like you can't concentrate, literally put it on your calendar for 1 hour. I'm going to cry. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to go deep into my pain or my shame or whatever it is. He's like, just put it on your calendar.
Totally. You know what I do? I open a Google Doc. I give myself 10 minutes. I set 10 minutes on my timer on my phone and I say, go at it. And I write the most horrible stuff about myself. Like everything that you could imagine. I like and you know what? It happens to me. And I don't know if this happens to other people. Oh my God, there is so much vitriol. It is so, I say the things that are in there. Right. And I put them, I go, you want a voice? Here's your voice. And then over time, it always happens. It's like horrible at the beginning. And then it kind of like, I start to burn out.
Right.
On like, okay, yeah. Like how many times can I say like, I don't know, I'm not successful enough, or I'm fat, or nobody likes me, everybody hates me, whatever it is. And then I start to kind of get into this really boring mindset where I'm like, oh, wait, I need to go to I'm typing because I've got 10 minutes. I got to fill 10 minutes. So after the first 3 minutes of just like horror, it turns into things like, wait, oh shoot, I forgot. I need those bananas. And I'll be writing. I need it's literally stream of consciousness writing. I don't reread it. I don't do anything. But by the end of it, I weirdly always kind of end up on my own side. Like, you got this. It's all right. It's not a big deal. All right, who cares? And remember to pick up the bananas. Boom, ding, 10 minutes is up.
So you just totally run out of steam because you're not actually like a mean person and you're not going to stay in that space.
It doesn't, I try. I mean, meaning I go, bring it on. And it's like when you're watching the horror movie and you haven't seen the monster and you're terrified of the monster. And then, oh my God, and then you see the monster and you go, that's really bad CG.
That's like paper mache.
Go, ooh, like I wouldn't, ooh. And it just kind of takes the wind out. That for me is what happens. I'd love to hear if other people have that same experience, but time after time, it turns into at the end, you got this and go buy bananas.
Can you give us a little bit of backstory? Like, how did you get into digital entrepreneurship all the way back in, 2009?
Yes. So before this, I have a kind of unusual background. I have an MBA from Stanford and decided I wanted to be a writer in Hollywood. So after I got my MBA, I moved to LA and started writing. And for 10 years, I wrote on certain TV shows. I wrote movies. I was like a working writer in Hollywood. And then during the .com bubble, I met my husband, who's a technologist. And it was so funny because I went in to talk to my agents and I'm like, there's this thing called the internet and I want to be a part of it. We're all going to make a ton of money. And ultimately the company that I worked for, where I met my husband, ran through, I don't know, $30-40 million. We did not get rich. However, I met my husband and I feel like I did get rich. And so my husband went on to work at MySpace back in the day, and I was writing movies in Hollywood. And we said, we really like working together. Let's build something. So on weekends and when we had free time, we started thinking about ideas. And this is a interesting thing. So he's at MySpace dealing with teens, and I'm writing teen comedies. And we thought, we understand teenagers. So let's create. And it was like, there was a TV show on MTV called My Super Sweet 16. And we're like, hey, let's create a social photo sharing site for teen girls where they'll share photos of their sweet 16s and their bar and bat mitzvahs and their proms and all these big events. So we hired some developers, like we both were working full time, hired some developers on the side, built this site. It was so pink and purple. Oh my God. And then we had a problem, that chicken and egg problem. We need to get people to put their party photos on our site so that other people will want to come and look at those party photos. Where do we start? And I'm like a 30-something woman, and I'm chasing people around the internet, like randomly messaging them, chasing teen girls, going, hey, I got this site. And literally I looked like a crazy person, and it was crickets. Like David would sit there on like, I don't know, midnight and go, oh my God, somebody's on our site. Look at that. Like, because he could see it.
Right.
And so, we didn't know what to do. So again, my strategy is always get really close to your person, your ideal customer or client audience. And nothing I did worked. And then one time we were on vacation, and all of a sudden somebody put a party up on our site, and it was a Minnie Mouse party from a mom who had an Etsy shop. And then lo and behold, another mom put her party photos up on our site, because one thing we did was we said at the beginning, put links to your stuff, like put links to your Etsy shop. We'll help you. But this wasn't like our thought. And I remember being on vacation and David and I going, oh no, we've attracted the wrong audience. No teen girl is going to want to put their party photos up on a site with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse parties, My Little Pony. And then we had to step back and go, oh, wait a second, maybe this is our site. And that was like such a powerful lesson as an entrepreneur. You think you know, but until you do it, that's how you find out for sure whether you really know. So you have to be willing to pivot and change and identify. And then that's when we identified these Etsy moms and said, let us help promote you. And lo and behold, our site was born.
Yeah. I mean, truer words were never spoke. This idea of like, you think you know what the market wants until the market tells you what it really wants. And honestly, I look at entrepreneurship. It's kind of like, I hate to compare it to being a shark, because that's like a mean predator, but you know how sharks, like the number one rule of being a shark is like, you have to keep swimming. Like you can't, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think like a shark can't stop or it like sinks, right? I don't know how they sleep or what they do, but I've always heard sharks have to keep swimming. And I kind of feel like that's how being an entrepreneur is. You just have to keep going. And eventually you iterate from one thing into the next, into the next, into the next. And eventually you find your what do you call it? Your message to market match. And you only got to get it right one time.
Absolutely. I heard this on a podcast, and I don't even remember. I think it was on Econ Talk, and because I'm a nerd, it was this idea of make to know. And I think that us as entrepreneurs, we want to get all our ducks in a row before we actually put it out there, right? I want to take courses. I want to hire a designer to make a really nice website for me. I'm going to watch a ton of YouTube videos. And then when I feel like I know what to do, I'm going to launch then. And I have to say that in everything I have built, it is always, you're in the dark. However, you start making, and you make badly. You just make, and it's ugly and it's embarrassing, and you just keep going because the only way you know is by making.
I mean, amen. You're preaching to the converted on that. I was on a mastermind, leading a mastermind intensive last night, actually. And one of the guys on there who hadn't been on in a while, he was telling, and I knew how he was doing because I hear about it. I get the feedback from our coaches and stuff, but I kind of brought him out and I was like, hey, tell everybody where you've been, how you've been doing. And this guy, he was a like a power lineman. Like he worked up on power lines, for years, for decades. He's probably in his 30s. So let's assume he did that for 10 years. And last year he got into my world and started learning to be an entrepreneur and started studying digital marketing. And he ended up getting himself fired because his crew was like, well, you're not fully committed to the lineman lifestyle or whatever. You're in your truck working on other things while we're out here talking about whatever linemen talk about.
He's making TikToks.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So for like a year, he had been working diligently, doing his job, but he would take his breaks or he would take his nights and weekends and he would go study digital entrepreneurship. And he did it for like a year and he didn't have any results. Like he wasn't making any money. He hadn't even launched his business. And then he got fired because they got wind that he was like doing this other thing. And he was like terrified, but he's like, oh, well, I guess, they burned my boats for me. Now I just have to go after it. And within like a few months, he had replaced his income. As launching a digital agency business and going out and hustling and, so it was just like, it took this unexpected, what felt like massive rug pull in his life to actually reorient him and kickstart him into action. And now he's like as happy as a clam. Right. And I think it's just a good example of how people, like you said, they take all this time getting ready to get ready. He spent a year getting ready to get ready and didn't get anywhere. And then he got fired.
And then
was like on his own in 3 months.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, think in your own life, because I fall prey to this, which is I do have this fantasy that at some point I'm going to get all my ducks in a row. Like I'm working toward it always. And guess what? I haven't ever done it because all of a sudden I get 3 in a row and then another one is like, just, I don't know, swims away and I'm trying to corral it back. Come on, ducks, get in a row. And I think that it's funny, but it's like weirdly true that I fall privy to this thinking. Oh yeah, I'll get to that. When the pandemic is over, when it's springtime, when my daughter is, who knows, right. Whatever it is. And it's like, oh no, life keeps happening. So you have to get into the slipstream and go.
Yeah.
And I have this idea, and this I think resonates. Women, I coach a lot of women, and they struggle with this because as women, we are taught to be nice and we're taught to be perfectionists and, we don't want to be embarrassed. So what I say is my concept is called B- work. Because B- work is as an insecure overachiever myself, I have to say that I have to remind myself of this as well, which is B- is above average. It's doable. And I would say it's not embarrassing. And that's what you want to hit, not C-level. I'm not telling people go do C-level work. I'm saying I want you above average, but I don't want you so above average that by the time you put it out there, months and months has gone by, because the truth is you think it's perfect, right? Let's say, your standard, oh, I'm a perfectionist. Oh, I can't put anything out that's not perfect. Well, this as an entrepreneur, you now need to get feedback from your audience. You think it's perfect, but just wait until people see it. Do they want this offer? Do they want to buy your course? You think you've made it perfect, but it's now time to co-create with your audience. And therefore, I always say, shoot for B- work. And I always put this out there, which is if you're questioning whether it's B- work, send it to me. And I will tell you if it's embarrassing. And now people have done this and I've never said, ooh, too embarrassing. Don't post it, because we hold ourselves to this unrealistic standard.
I love that concept. I'm totally swiping that, by the way, B- work.
I'm writing the book, so don't write the book.
I won't write the book. I am literally putting the finishing touches on my book that I've been working on for like 3 years. You do not have to worry about me writing another book anytime soon. I'm so over it. Yeah, that's funny. That's actually what I was doing. Like right up to our recording here, I was working on the final edit of my book. But it's interesting. You mentioned female entrepreneurs. I had someone on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I've actually had quite a few sort of really strong female entrepreneurs, but also people who coach or lead or have communities of female entrepreneurs. I think the universe is trying to get me to diversify my audience, which is great. But her name is Tanya. Tanya Dalton was her name. And she has a company that sells they have organizers and stuff that get sold in Staples and Office Depot and stuff and online. But she was talking a lot about women, female entrepreneurs. And she was kind of saying the same thing as you, that they tend to, and I'm a dumb guy, so I'm not saying this. I'm only repeating what's been said to me by smart women, that you gals put a lot of pressure on yourselves. Like maybe even more than us guys do. Like you have this idea that it has to be perfect, kind of like the way my wife is when people are coming over to the house and everything just has to be perfect. And it's like, no, like B- couldn't possibly be good enough. And I think you're giving them permission to maybe reconsider that.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I continually preach to my audience, especially the women, is, ready for it? Be salesy.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we as women are terrified of asking for a sale, even if we believe in our product. So again, I say to my female audience, be salesy, because your version of salesy is no way near salesy. I want to push you in that direction. And I say, if you are uncomfortable, like you're feeling like you're salesy, you're just starting to be in the right place of being a saleswoman. I think as women, and again, I'm speaking in generalities, but as a woman, female entrepreneur, I feel like I have this inside insight. We, especially if we are mothers, we give a lot. We love to give. We give to our families, and we're kind of in the background making things run smoothly. So we're used to giving, but we're not necessarily used to making money for what we give. So there's always this kind of thing where women will sell something that they totally believe in, right? That's going to they know the problem. They know they can make your life better if you buy their solution. And yet they kind of couch it in language like, hey, yeah, I think this might work for you, but like, hey, no pressure. Like, yeah, you might want to buy it, but like no pressure. And I'm going to put this at the bottom of my blog post, like as a little aside. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you believe in your solution and you know that you can make my life better with it, I want you to yell it from the treetops. This is a win-win. This isn't you being like salesy and kind of icky. And so I think it's a mindset shift. I think there is a lot, like as women, we feel like somehow we're not deserving. I'm going live with a podcast actually next week. So we've launched this new product called Milo Tree Easy Payments, and it is easy. It is the easiest way to get paid for things like paid workshops and memberships and services and coaching, because we think technology is hard. So we said, let's strip all the technology out and just make it so that, boom, you can start getting paid from your audience. And it's so interesting because I'm talking about this and I'm saying, hey, audience, like, hey, if you know something and you have some expertise, set up a paid workshop. I'll show you how to do it. And you can just, boom, start selling to your audience your solution without having to go create a course or who knows. And then I was talking to a friend of mine, another very successful female entrepreneur, and she said, you forgot one piece. And I said, what? And she said, you forgot that your audience has so much negative self-talk, doesn't believe that they have something to teach. It's like, I'm kind of approaching it at this level. And it's like, there's a whole other level where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of female entrepreneurs we discount what we know. We discount our, what I call special sauce. Because if I know it, then you must know it. If I know it, it's like not that valuable because of course everybody knows.
And if it comes easily to me, it must come easily to other people.
It's
right?
like, duh. Yeah. Like, and ready for it. You could go watch a YouTube video. Right. Why do you need to learn from me? So I'm all about saying you are valuable. What you know is valuable. Go love on your people so they will love you back and buy from you. And you're making their lives better.
You know, it's interesting. because I don't think this is unique to women, because I know how many, I think it's like men, we are expected and we expect to go out in the world and make money. I think we are perhaps more confident about that, let's say, as a generalization, than women. But I'm not sure that we're naturally more confident, at least in today's world, about going out in the world and getting paid for value as opposed to getting paid for time.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think that, and I have more men than women in my audience. I'd say it's probably 2/3, 1/3. And so I see a lot of, I see obviously both, but I hear about through our coaching program and talking to people in the mastermind and just even kind of casually chatting with students online. Like, it is real. I think it's just human to really, really doubt that you have this intrinsic, unique, value that's as unique and special as you are unique and rare, like 1 in 8 billion, right? And that there's something to charge for there. I think as men, we're very much like, oh, I'll go out, I'll clock in at 9 and I'll clock out at 5. And from 9 to 5, they'll pay me X for my time. Like, that's our role, right? But this idea that like, there's just this ineffable quality about me that I can go monetize is, I think that's hard for everyone.
It's funny. So in my podcast that's going live tomorrow, this friend of mine and I, what we do is and by the way, like virtual friend, we've met a couple of times in real life, but just via being on the internet. And we get together on a call. Like we literally go, let's have a coffee date, and we FaceTime each other, and we give each other insights that the other one doesn't have about each other's businesses, because I see her business from the outside. So right. I don't see all the problems, and I don't see where she's struggling. And I can kind of come up with these, what would I say? Almost like short generalizations of what I see her special sauce to be. But when you're so in it, you lose sight of this kind of top line description, or like, hey, you're that person. You're the person who provides this kind of value. And she does the same for me. And I think it's very difficult to get that level of feedback. And I always now recommend you get a buddy who will be straight with you, but who doesn't just criticize you or tell you what you could do better, who tells you the perception of you to the world. So you can start to go, oh, wait a second, because it's so hard. I'm on the inside of me. So there's so much about me I'm missing. And if you have that friend that you can be honest with, to say, yeah, I know you're struggling with this and that's great, we could talk about it, but like, here's what I see you doing effortlessly. And we both get off the call, and we both, I think, get like a million ideas of like, oh, I could go this way or this, or I could lean into this. And so having some, because when you are a solopreneur, it can be a lonely journey.
Well, and it's disorienting because you're so in it.
You're so in it.
Somebody said you can't read the label from inside the jar.
That's great. That's great. And
it's like, and I mean, as you're saying that, I'm just like, it is so true. I literally had a conversation yesterday. We hired a brand director, and I'm fortunate. Our company's now big enough. We can go hire a brand director who used to work at Coca-Cola and knows a lot about branding. But like, she's like, Jeff, like, she's like, all these words, all these ideas, you have so much to say, and nobody has time, and nobody, like, it has to be so simple for people to get it. And it's funny. I mean, we have been working for years now. I mean, I launched my education company 2.5 years ago, I guess. We sold our first product, and I actually started planting the seeds for it 3.5 years ago. And even still, last week, we redid our mission and vision statements, trying to get more clear, more concise, more precise, and more easy. I mean, you come from Hollywood, right? It's like, you always have to think like, okay, if I find myself on the elevator with Steven Spielberg or James Cameron, and I have like 15 floors to pitch my screenplay, I get maybe like 10 or 15 words in 10 or 15 seconds.
Absolutely.
And if he's not hooked by the time he gets to his floor, I just blew my one shot, my big shot, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. So having somebody outside of you say, this is how I see you is so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You even like ask, I don't know, ask people in your family, like, what do I like, or think about what do people come to you for advice?
Yeah.
You're this, you know, like I have this friend again, who I've met on the internet, right? And she monetizes. She's one of those people on Amazon who does those live selling videos that, I don't know if you've seen it, like on the homepage and she literally like loves products, and she's the girlfriend who hooks up her girlfriends, right? She's a mom. So literally we get a call and I go, what on Amazon am I not buying that I should be buying? And she's like, oh my God, have you bought the jewelry cleaner? And I'm like, no, what is the jewelry cleaner? And she's like, it's this awesome thing. And it's a pen and you put it on your wedding, your engagement ring, and it cleans it. And it's like less than $10. And I'm like, send me the link. Because even though like, yeah, I just her enthusiasm made me buy the jewelry cleaner pen that I don't need. But she has that way of being like, girlfriend, you need this. So that is like, she has this special sauce. Like she just finds these products and sells them, and she's awesome at it.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know you can get a free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut, which shows you the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy. And there's a special link just for this episode in the description. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. So let's run with this for a second, because I at least as far as the feedback I've been able to get, I think something like 3/4 of the people that listen to this show are people that either are considering starting a business or they have actively taken steps to, start a side hustle. Maybe they registered a domain or they set up a Stripe account or something, right? But they're still in that getting, launch phase, right? So I think this is a perfect conversation for the audience. So let's assume there's, many people that are going to hear this that are like, oh, that's me. I do that. I tell people about cool products, or I fall in love with, the way that candle smells, and I tell all my friends they just have to have it, or like whatever. What do you say to that person who's just having trouble believing that like, there's actually a business there. There's actually an opportunity to do something that could, shift the entire trajectory of their life and what they have to do to go out and make money every day. Like, I think that's still an idea that a lot of people struggle with.
Well, again, it's funny. I just did a TikTok yesterday about this, which is like, how do you find your niche? And literally I said, ask yourself 4 questions. And the first one is, what do you love? So this friend of mine loves jewelry cleaner, and she'll tell you the best sunscreen. And she's somebody who, buys bathing suits on Amazon and then posts herself in the bathing suits, for moms. Like she just like has that thing. So what is the thing that you love that you would be listening to podcasts about if you, in your free time? Like, where are you on the internet? Second question is, again, what do people come to you for advice? Like, what do you hook people? Oh my God. Like we were just talking about Las Vegas, and I'm like, okay, where should we go? And you're hooking me up with ideas. Right. So it's like, okay, like I would go, Jeff, like you were my Vegas guy. So it's like, maybe, travel, maybe, discounts, maybe, parenting tips, maybe, like the best iPhone apps. Oh my God, or the best video games, right? What is it that people come to you for? And then the third one is, what could you research all the time and not get bored? Because the thing is, you want to make sure that you can stay in this. Like you don't want to go, oh, I'm so bored of that, I need to switch niches in 6 months. So it's like, what, not only, do you know a lot about it? Like you might know a lot about cars, and yet you don't, because your dad was a mechanic, right, but you hate cars. So your friends come to you to talk about cars. You know a lot about cars, but the last thing you want to do is think about cars. So you need to have that inner drive. And then the next thing I say is go out into the world, go on to TikTok. By the way, I'm just starting to lean into TikTok. I'm loving it. So I would say go on to TikTok and go type in keywords that kind of fit within this niche and see what people are already creating. Because I promise you, there's no unique idea, especially on the internet or on TikTok. Go look at what people are doing. So let's say it's something like, okay, let's say it's cars, right? And you go onto TikTok and you look at all of these influencers on TikTok and they're making all these car videos. But let's say you're a woman and you like cars. Oh my God, what a great twist. So is there a way you could go into the content, look at the content that's already being created, and all you need to do is find like a teeny way to tweak it to make it your own. And that would be so I would be going onto YouTube and looking up in your niche. What are people making? But how can I potentially stand out? Because I promise you, there are influencers in everything. And that's how you start to go, oh, this is where I could start to build my tribe, build people around me who are interested in this specific topic, who have my level of passion. And one other thing I want to say, you do not need a PhD in whatever this niche topic is. All you need to be is 1 to maybe 2 steps ahead of where your audience is. For example, I've been working with this blogger. She's married to a French chef. So what she's decided to do is to take what her husband teaches her and then blog about it, because she is not, I don't want to learn from a French chef. He's too far away from me. Like, I would embarrass myself. I don't even know the terminology, but she's the translator. So I want to learn from her because she's learning from the master. And like, that is a twist of French cooking, but through an American's eyes, through a mom's eyes. So is there a way for you to kind of find a place where you might be a step or 2 ahead, but you understand the problems that that person has? And your job is to solve problems for your audience, full stop.
Your job is to solve problems for your audience, full stop. I like that. I think you've hit on something that I've identified as being a really, really essential piece of, kind of call it the personal branding formula, or just the general marketing awareness equation, where it's like, obviously you kind of have to choose a niche. You have to, hone in on a category or a subject, an area of expertise. But then you have to think about, and I think this is like one of the hardest things for people, and I would love to hear you talk about how you got comfortable with this. I have my own experience with it, but like this idea of thinking about yourself as like a product with a brand, where, like as humans, we're messy and, we're emotional and life is what it is. But like this idea of thinking of yourself as a jar with a label, and like, what does the label say? And what is it communicating? And really having to like almost be reductive about the way you see yourself, to try to see yourself as the market would see you. And so for me, it's like, I've kind of identified this. Okay, you got to have expertise in a category, like you said, and you're right. You don't have to be a PhD. In fact, I think in many ways it hurts you if you're too advanced, but you got to have like, be known as like a subject matter, authority. Right. But then you also have to be like the subject matter authority who also XYZ blank, like human quality that humanizes you and doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your subject matter. Like for me, I'm like the online, entrepreneurial educator who's kind of declared war on traditional education and trying to create this alternate path for people. And I'm a subject matter expert about, entrepreneurship and modern business. And that's my competency. But my humanity is, I'm also a dad who plays the piano, and so like, in terms of people remembering you in the market, it's kind of like if people say, oh, he's that guy who, talks about other ways to start a business or build an income or, not have to go to college and get a job. Well, there's a million of those guys. But if you say, but he's also the one who, he's a dad, he plays piano, he's got that car with the license plate that says unemployed. Like there's little things I've done and that I've planted in the public market and online that help me they create like this human wrapping around my competency. And so, but it wasn't natural to do that. I had to think objectively about what would help me be memorable and connectable and relatable in the market. So I'm curious. And like I said, I resisted it because I'm an introvert and I don't want to like think about myself as a product. That just felt, I don't know if it felt vain or it felt arrogant or it felt self-centered or something in me resisted it for a long time. Does that land with you? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? And if so, like, how did you overcome it?
Okay. First thing that helps me, because I too am an introvert, and I too, I'm looking at myself on Zoom and I'm like, oh, I should have brushed my hair. And, I can't help but be self-critical. The way that I start this, the way that I recommend the entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this, think about it, is be a helper first. Get out of yourself and be a helper. And by being a helper, it takes the focus off of you so that the more connection you have with somebody and the more you're able to make their path in life better, the more human you become. And then you're more apt to, for example, like, if you listen to my podcast, I share about my daughter, who's 14, which is a fascinating age. And I share about, I was sharing about my husband and some funny anecdote about our relationship. But I didn't set out to, or I'm this Hollywood writer. What was that about? Like, I didn't set out to go, I am the I can, juggle plates. Like, that's my thing. No. And in fact, I'm always looking for like how to humanize myself. But what I have found is getting out of myself is my solution, because we all, I think, are put on this planet, not all of us, because they're like sociopaths, but most of us feel good when we are helping. So nurture that feeling and get on, like, this is the other thing that I talk about. Find your avatar, find that person that you can help and go do it, and do it closely. Yesterday, so we're launching MyLoTree Easy Payments. Yesterday, I was on 3 calls with 3 entrepreneurs. Some of them couldn't even use MyLoTree Easy Payments for what they're trying to accomplish. And yet I'm coaching somebody and going, she's like, I hate Instagram. And I go, you get on TikTok, my friend. Today, I want you to make a video and I want you to email it to, like, send me the link, because I want to cheer you on. And I want to tell you that TikTok's better than Instagram. It's more fun. It's more forgiving. So, and lo and behold, she's like, oh my God, I think I could do that. And lo and behold, she made a TikTok and she sent it to me and I'm applauding her. And that's not leading to dollar signs, but a feeling of satisfaction when she messages me and says, oh my God, this was the push I needed. Thank you. Like, she's warmed my soul. And guess what? I've made a true fan, right? Like,
and she'll probably at some point use your payment widget. I mean,
absolutely. But I'm not thinking that way,
right?
Because the satisfaction I get from that text message that says, whoa, like, you came into me, I just set up a call with her and saw where she was stuck. I thought she could use MyLoTree Easy Payments. Turns out, nope, she's not there yet. So I saw where she was and I said, I'm going to give you this push and I want you to take me up on it. And in fact, I just said, could you do this now? Because, make TikToks. Could you do this for 7 days? Could you try doing this for 7 days and report back to me? And so I'm loving on her because I love her, and so therefore I don't have to think about me as much as I just have to think about her. And now I've made a fan.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm such a, I was actually, if you saw me looking off camera, it's because I was trying to find this post I made the other day that basically was just kind of said the same thing. It was like, just shut up and serve somebody.
Yeah. Like again, I talk about my 14-year-old daughter, and it's fascinating because they're so raw at this age and they're so self-absorbed, like we all are, but they can't hide it as well.
That's their job to be at that age.
It is.
It's not wrong.
Oh my God. And do you know what I tell my daughter? And it kind of blows her mind. I go, nobody's thinking about you. And she's like upset and relieved at the same time. because she'll be so obsessed that like she has a pimple or something. And I'm like, I promise you, no, everybody's thinking about themselves. Nobody's thinking about you. And I say this as an entrepreneur, nobody's thinking about you. You come into my, let's say you're in my TikTok feed or you're in my Instagram. I see you for a second and then I'm going on with my life. And that's the other thing, which is don't take yourself so seriously because nobody else is.
Yeah, it's funny as you're saying that because I pulled up my phone while we were talking because I was trying to find that post, which normally I would never have my social media open while I'm doing an interview, but now it's open. And so I'm like, I've got all these comments from people that are like, basically criticizing actually one of my TikTok videos that we reposted to Facebook. And they're saying like, this guy's an idiot. This guy doesn't know that. And it's all this stuff. And it's like, you kind of just develop, like I literally made this video to try to explain to people how, leverage works and why you would borrow money to acquire, instead of paying cash for an investment property, why you would borrow money and use it to acquire more investment properties and, compound your return on the bank's money. It's like basic, simple concept. And, half the people are like, oh, this guy's a genius. I never thought of that. And half the people are like, this guy's an idiot. He clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's like, to just be able to wash my hands of all of it and say, you know what? I showed up. I tried to serve. I tried to give value. I tried to help. People take what they want, leave the rest, and then move on. Yeah, it's so freeing to only be trying to ride one horse. I think, there's that saying, you can't chase two rabbits. You can't ride two horses. People are like, well, I need to serve. And I need to make money and I need to launch my product and I need to do this. And it's like, you got to pick one thing. And the thing to pick, I love that you said it, is just to serve, just to help people. And everything else. I mean, obviously, you have to keep a lot of plates spinning as an entrepreneur, but every other plate can stop spinning except for that one.
Definitely. And then you get to know these people and you see what they're struggling with. And then you create products or find products that solve their problems. And because they trust you. So the woman I'm talking to yesterday, I got her to make a TikTok, right? She trusts me. I had no vested interest, except for her. I wanted her to do this for herself because I could tell she was feeling stuck. So I have no idea if this will ever pay off. Who knows? Like, that's not why I'm there. But if I do enough of those things, I don't know how you are an online entrepreneur and you don't believe in karma.
Well, so I will say this. I'm actually remembering, I think back in the early 2019, I think I actually shot it because I used to just shoot video. Like when I launched my business, there was no business plan. There was no product even. For like a year, I did what we said. I just tried to help people and I just shot videos and uploaded them and said, here's my 2 cents about whatever, right? Maybe there's value here. And it built an audience and people are like, oh my gosh, this guy posts helpful videos and he's never even selling anything. Like, and eventually people are like, dude, will you please sell something? Like, this is weird. Why aren't you selling me something? So anyway, that was kind of cool. But I remember one video I did where I think I actually talked about like bullying myself in the mirror. Like kind of what you're saying, where only I looked in the mirror and I was like, looking at myself, like you suck. You're such a piece of shit. Like nobody's ever going to buy anything. Everybody sees right through you, right? Whatever it was. Right. And so I actually think I did to try that once. But I know what I definitely believe in. That's a lot like what you're saying, which is just stream of consciousness. I actually had a buddy who had a therapist back when I lived in Houston, and him and I were like best friends. Like I would go to therapy and he would go to his therapist and we would like talk about our therapy sessions. We were real into like personal development. Right. And he told me he had a therapist whose the entire sessions would be free association. So for an hour, he would sit there in his chair and he literally, the goal was don't think, just talk. And he'd be like, blue bananas, penises falling from the sky, I hate myself, televisions, Japanese men over 4 feet tall. Like he would just random whatever. Right. And I just did it. So that's weird. And anyway, so then I actually started trying it, and it's so like, I felt like it was like creative lubrication for my brain. Like it lubricates all the creativity centers. and all the idea centers and your ability to start making connections. And I don't know, I feel like most people, most of the time, are trying to control what they think so that they can think the right things and not think the wrong things. Mm-hmm. And what's that saying? You know, I don't know, let go and let God. It's almost like just let go and let your brain. Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely. And again, this goes back to all of these things of like, help, B- work, give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Go make bad stuff because it has to be bad at the beginning. So when I was writing movies, I would always have this, which is I'd get to the end of a movie, right? It's polished. I have spent years on this, let's say months, and I get a new job and I have to start writing again. And I would start and I would go, oh my God, I am the biggest poser. I do not know how to write, because what I had forgotten about was that other project that was now polished, that was now being made, that was sold, whatever it is, had taken all of this time to go from really bad to a little better and a little better and a little better. And oh, there's some really good stuff in there too. Ooh, this is like a polished screenplay. But it doesn't mean that when you start again, you start and like, oh my God, it's gold. No, it's horrible. It is horrible again at the beginning because you don't know and you're in there and you're trying to discover. And I always used to think this. I think this other writer named Anne Lamott always said this, and I feel it too. It's like, I don't want to, like when I would be writing and I'd be at the beginning of a project, I didn't want to die in a car crash and have somebody go back and read my first, like where I was, because they'd be like, what happened to her? She's a horrible writer.
She used to be so good.
Yeah, she was good. We thought she was good. Like, what is this dreck? So know that in the beginning, things suck. And it's a lot about having faith. Having faith, ready, that you'll figure it out, because you're never going to have your ducks in a row before you start. And you're going to kind of be like crawling through muck in the dark. And you got to kind of keep going and see what you have, and then go in front of people and say, what do you think of this? Is this helpful?
You know, I love entrepreneurship. I feel like it is the ultimate crucible and forge for all the baggage, all the crap that we have to work through in our life. And it's interesting to see what a really a deeply personal journey it is to launch and grow a business. It almost has a lot more to do with personal development than it does with professional skill. And as an example of how it forces you and how like you never outgrow your own sort of personal insecurities. And it's always like literally this whole time now for the last, whatever, few minutes we've been sitting here, I've been sitting here going, man, I'll bet people are going to try to psychoanalyze me because of my little 30-second free association moment. Right. And they're going to be like, he talked about penises. He talked about Japanese men. He went from blue bananas to penises, which isn't actually much of a jump. Like, what does this say about? And so now in my mind, I'm like, I can't believe I did that on a podcast. I free associated for 12 seconds and showed everybody what a like weird idiot I am. And like, it's so cool.
I'm going to call you on that, which is I'm going to say, and nobody cares about you.
Exactly. You're so right.
What? Nobody cares. So you care and you're worried. But guess what? Somebody's going to hear that and maybe they will try and psychoanalyze you for a total of 12 seconds.
Right.
And then they've moved on because they're inside them and they're obsessed with them. Like that's where it's just like you go, this is like mind blowing.
I know. You're so right. And thank you for calling me on that. It's so true. But it's so lit. It's like, I actually have some pretty radical ideas. Like I almost feel like you shouldn't even be allowed to hold public office if you've never built a business. Because I actually think like, how could people, what other mechanism in this world is there to drive this much personal growth as having to deal with your own inadequacies within the act of building a business? Is there anything that anybody else could do to like force themselves to grow as much? I can't think of it.
I think
maybe like going in the military or something. I don't know.
I agree with you. I think that building a business holds a mirror up to you and shows you both the beauty and the awfulness and all the places you get tripped up. And it kind of says, hey, you don't have a choice, but you've got to face this if you want to be successful. So I agree with you. I don't think it's for everybody. I think people see, the TikToks and YouTube videos and go, I could do that. And I always say, go do that. Go do that. Go live with yourself and do it. And if you are that person, go for it, because so many people are not, that you will be setting yourself up for success, because not everybody can do it.
I agree. It's like living in New York City. Everybody should do it for like a year. Yeah. See if they like it, Yeah. I lived in New York for 1 year, and that was good.
I grew up in New Jersey.
I got tough enough, and then I was good.
And I lived in New York on and off. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then you go, yeah, not for me, not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, not my thing.
So I know, I'm sorry. We're unfortunately like almost out of time, and I have to bring this to a close. So I'm going to ask you a question. Can we end on like an unscripted question?
Absolutely.
Not that any of this has been scripted, but so the most existentially challenging moment for you in your journey to get to where you are, and it could be personal, it could be business, it could be anything. The moment when you were most forced to come to grips with who you were and your place in the world and how it connects to where you are now.
Does it have to be about my business or like my life?
It can be anything. It can be anything. I think it's an arbitrary distinction to try to differentiate between personal and professional, especially for entrepreneurs. For
me, it was 9 years ago when I got a cold and it wouldn't go away. And I got sicker and I got sicker and I got sicker. And I couldn't get out of bed. And I went and then all of a sudden I had double vision and I couldn't function. And I was a mom and a wife and super healthy. And within 4 days, I got diagnosed with MS that I'd had for years before. And I remember, so my vision it really manifested for me in balance and vision. So I had double vision and I couldn't balance. And I had to go on these really high steroids to calm the inflammation down in my brain. And I'd have to go to an infusion center. And I remember walking back to the back of the place to get my infusion. And the nurse says to me, wow, we get a lot of MS patients in here. When did you get diagnosed? And I thought, well, first when she said we get a lot of MS patients in here, I had no idea who she was talking to because I'm the healthy person. And then she said, when were you diagnosed? And I go, yesterday. So it was like my life shifted from being this healthy person who could burn the candle at both ends, who will always be there for my daughter, for my husband, reliable, all of that, to facing this debilitating disease where I had no idea what it was going to turn into. And the image for me was my husband pushing me in a wheelchair. And it was like my life stopped in that moment. And her saying to me like, oh, we get a lot of MS patients in here. And I'm thinking, who's she talking to?
Right.
And I've heard this about cancer patients too, where one day they're like, I'm just a regular person. Oh, I have, breast cancer, colon. Like, no, I'm now a cancer patient.
Right.
And it was like that for me. And to know, and then the thing with MS is you don't know what your trajectory is going to be like until you're in it. So it takes about 2 years till it stabilizes and you can figure it out. And luckily for me, my MS now is in remission and I take a lot of drugs and all of that. But I think it was in that moment where I recognized that everything I had thought was going to be was not going to be, and that my life was going to be very, very different from that moment on. And it was very much this idea that I also had to put my health first. This is like that weird concept of like the kind of airplane mask. You have to put your own mask on first. This was so weird. And it was hard for me to comprehend. I had to care about my health first in order to then be the wife and mother I wanted to be. So since then, I do prioritize things like sleep and exercise and stress and all of this because I have to, not because like it was always, I'll do that when I'm dead. Mm-hmm. So for me, that shifted everything.
So you may have already answered this, but I want to ask it overtly. How was that experience essential? And what would the word be? Essential. How is it necessary and essential in a positive way?
Because
for you to be exactly where you're supposed to be right now.
It showed me what mattered. It showed me so clearly what mattered. And that's where it was that my family mattered more than anything else, more than my success. Because who knew if I would be able to go back and work on my businesses? And especially, I was terrified I wouldn't be able to work on them as hard. So, but it kind of tamped that down a little bit and made me weirdly lean into helping. And it was less about me. That was it. It kind of turned like my ego down a little bit and enabled me to go, what else is the point of this whole thing? That's it. It gave me this existential realization that our time on this planet is short and we need to make the most of it. And it's not that the guy with the most toys at the end wins. I like toys, but that's not what it's about. It's about connection for me. So that it just shifted everything. I was always high achiever, and I am high achiever. But without the other pieces, it's really hollow.
So then follow. I know I keep saying the last question, but now I just have to follow up because you said you totally hooked me when you said it's about connection. How do you think that experience and then that realization or that awareness that it's about connection, how has that changed the business that you have now? In what has it in ways that have made it better or worse or different? What is it now that it wouldn't have been if not for that?
So Catch My Party, when we started it, I wanted it to seem like a big business. It's just my husband and me when we started. And now it's us, and we have a bunch of like assistants and VAs who work with us. But I wanted to hide behind it. Like we're so successful. We're like this, almost like I wanted it to feel like a multinational corporation.
Right.
And now I feel like, oh my God, I was such a poser. And that was so weird. And with Milo Tree, it's like, honestly, in my podcast, I'm always going, email me, get on a call with me. I want to talk to you. It's just me. Or, David, or we're building in real life, like we're building SaaS businesses, predominantly just the two of us with some help from designers and people like that. But I want to be really transparent, really honest, going, we don't know what we're doing. We're trying it out. So I think there's a level of honesty that I don't have all the answers. I'm here just sorting it out just like you, but that we're all human. So it's like, I'm willing to talk about, say, my self-doubt and my imposter syndrome. I probably wouldn't have been willing to talk about that before MS, but MS really brought me to my knees. And I'm so grateful that I have my life back. And the other stuff just didn't seem to matter as much.
Do you think that your business has done as well or even better than it would have if you hadn't had that shift?
I do, because I feel like there are people who feel connected to me.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think they would have.
I'll be honest. I've been on your list for a couple of years. I'm on a lot of people's lists. I don't email most of them and say, hey, I'd like to have you on the show. I mean, to be honest, there's something really natural and human about you and your style. And
thank you.
So at least from this person's perspective, I totally see what you're saying.
Thank you. Because I think that's it. I think I stopped posing as much. And I think I just said, hey, I don't have a lot to hide. So it's not like, oh my God, there are all these skeletons in the closet or anything like that. But I do have, a lot, like all of that. And that's the thing, I guess, recognizing my shame helps me touch you, because chances are you've got shame spots too. So if I can say, hey, I have shame spots. I have little places where if you touch them, they're kind of, ooh, they kind of send chills down my spine and make me feel really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And just by saying that, I want hopefully somebody else to go, oh, I get that. I know what she's talking about.
And so I think that's what's so cool about the modern economy is that you can actually make a life-sustaining business mm-hmm. out of it's like in the old world, in the corporate world, mm-hmm. the asset was suppressing your humanity and showing up as more of like a professional robot. Mm. In the modern world, in this interconnected social media, internet world that I think people tend to distort in their mind and thinking it's all about filters and appearances. Mm. But the real asset, my experience, is the most successful people are the ones that are actually the most authentically themselves, which I don't think is true of big business corporate America. I don't think if you work in an office at, if 25 years ago you worked in an office at Arthur Andersen, I don't think you scored points for showing up authentically yourself. I don't think that was currency there. Totally. It is now. It totally is now. And it's so cool.
And I would say this, my daughter, is always my teacher. And just even in this little way, my daughter, I remembered like 2 years ago, or maybe even longer, like my daughter would be watching YouTube videos of other girls sitting on their beds who had gone to the mall and had gone shopping. And they were doing haul videos where they literally had their bags and they were unpacking stuff like, hey, I got this new mascara. I really like it. What do you think? And it would be like some random girl on her bed, just talking about stuff. And to my daughter, that girl was as cool to her as say like Reese Witherspoon. Mm-hmm. Like she didn't care about Reese Witherspoon because Reese Witherspoon is not talking to my daughter, is not being like, hey, what do you think of the mascara? Like, look, I'm going to put it on and blah, blah, blah. And so it became really interesting to me that through this evolution, my daughter feels connected to that girl who has it's not a fancy bedroom. Right. It's not like the most expensive mascara. It's just that she feels this connection, this authenticity. And that was like this wow moment because me growing up, it was all about celebrities and they're so much better than me. And so I think you are right. It's that girl is showing up authentically and talking about mascara. Like we're not talking about super deep things, but it's just something about our humanity. And I think we can smell it in other people.
Amen. I think that's a good note to end on. I think for anybody that's going out there to brave this world of entrepreneurship or just try to shift the course of their life, to know that, you're like they say, your mess is your message, and your humanity, your vulnerability, Brene Brown said, there's the power in your vulnerability. Like that's, I think so many people have this idea that like, oh, I'm going to be the next great, tech entrepreneur, and I need to buy a nice suit and be on the cover of Fast Company and downplay my humanity and just be more polished. And it's like, so the opposite. At least I think it should be. So anyway, Jillian, how can the world go get more of your amazingness?
Oh, wonderful. Okay. First of all, email me at Jillian@milotree.com. I'd love to hear from you and let me know that you heard me on this podcast. Check out my podcast called the Blogger Genius Podcast, where I interview people. I think you're going to be on my show.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's coming up. So that will be really exciting. I talk to successful entrepreneurs, bloggers, industry experts, and really try to have real conversations. Also check out MiloTree, which we have a pop-up app where you will grow your real followers on platforms like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and what else am I? Facebook, Pinterest, and your email list. And wait. We are just building our TikTok pop-up to grow your TikTok followers. Nice. And MiloTree Easy Payments, which is milotree.com/easy payments, because I am leaning in to the creator economy. I really want to help creators build businesses and make money.
Awesome. Are you on social media?
Oh, yeah. Find me on Instagram at Milo Tree, all over, or Milo Tree app on other platforms.
If you loved that episode, then you're definitely gonna love this one. Check it out.
Productivity isn't about doing more, it's doing what's most important. It's looking at your life, it's looking at your business and figuring out what are the things that move the needle, and then focusing your time, your energy, your money in those areas, because it's gonna make the biggest difference.